A billionaire stood frozen in the cold morning fog, staring at his daughter's grave, only to see a janitor kneeling beside it, clutching a little girl who looked heartbreakingly familiar. Her tiny hand rested on the tombstone, as if she had known his daughter. But how? The janitor wiped his tears the moment he noticed the billionaire, but the child didn't move. She just whispered, "Mama, I'm back." And in that moment, the billionaire's world shattered. Nothing made sense. Who was this janitor? Why was he crying at a grave he had no reason to visit? And why did that little girl look exactly like the daughter he had buried years ago? This is the moment a secret begins to unravel, one that will flip an entire life upside down. For those who are new here, welcome to Brain Fuel, the channel where real-life inspired stories come alive with emotion, mystery, and powerful lessons. Make sure to sit tight because today's story is going to stay with you long after the video ends. Let's begin.
The billionaire froze. Someone else was crying at his daughter's grave, and it wasn't him. The sound hit him first, soft, broken sobbing echoing between the rows of gravestones. Adnan Mirza stopped walking. He knew this cemetery like he knew the lines on his palms. For 7 years he had walked this exact path, on this exact day, at this exact hour. He always came before sunrise so no one could watch him collapse the way he always did at his daughter's grave. But today, someone had beaten him to it. The sky was still gray, the sun not yet strong enough to cut through the cold morning haze. A thin drizzle fell, making the marble headstones shine like they were crying too. Adnan adjusted his umbrella and walked forward, confusion turning into annoyance, then into something colder. Fear. At Aisha's grave, the grave he visited alone every year, knelt a man in a faded brown janitor's uniform. His back was hunched, his shoulders trembling violently. In his arms, a small girl, 6, maybe 7 years old, clung to him, her tiny hand rubbing his face as if trying to wipe away his pain. The janitor wasn't just crying. He was grieving. And that made no sense. Adnan's heartbeat thudded harder with each step he took closer. For a moment, he wondered if he had misread the gravestone, if maybe he was hallucinating again like he did during those terrible first years. But no, he recognized it instantly. Aisha Mirza, beloved daughter, 1998 to 2018. The sight hit him like a punch in the chest. His breath shook. His daughter, his entire world, gone in an instant. But why? Why was this stranger crying here? Why was a child here? Adnan cleared his throat sharply. "Excuse me." The janitor flinched so hard he nearly lost his balance. He scrambled to his feet, moving the little girl behind him protectively as though expecting danger. I'm sorry, sir. I didn't know anyone else came this early." Adnan narrowed his eyes. He wasn't angry, just confused, shaken off from the ritual he had kept for years. "I'm not asking about the time. I'm asking why you're at my daughter's grave." The janitor swallowed hard, his Adam's apple bobbing like he was fighting to breathe normally. His eyes were red and swollen as if he had been crying long before Adnan arrived. "My name is Saqib," he said quietly. I work as a janitor nearby, and I'm here because—" He paused, voice cracking. "Because I knew your daughter." Adnan felt an uneasy shock ripple through him. "You knew Aisha?" he repeated. Saqib nodded weakly. But that didn't make sense. Aisha never mentioned him. She was careful with her circle, friends from university, colleagues she worked with during internships, and people from charity programs she volunteered for. But she didn't keep secrets from her father. "How did you know her?" Adnan asked, suspicion creeping into his tone. Saqib hesitated before answering, as if afraid his words would shatter the already fragile moment. She helped me. Once. More than anyone ever did. Adnan felt his breath hitch. Aisha helped many people. That was who she was. But what does that have to do with you crying at her grave? Saqib's eyes filled with tears again, and the little girl hugged him tighter, sensing his pain even without understanding the full story. It has everything to do with me, and with my daughter. Before Adnan could ask what he meant, he wiped his face with the back of his sleeve and stepped slightly forward. The little girl stepped out, peeking from behind his leg. Her eyes were large, innocent, and filled with confusion, but not fear. She looked up at Adnan the way children look at strangers they think might be important. Adnan forced himself to calm down. "What's your name, little one?" he asked softly. "Amna. I'm 7. "Why are you here, Amna?" She glanced up at her father, then back at the grave. "Baba says a brave angel lady saved me when I was small. He says she watched over me. I thought, maybe this is where she rests?" Adnan blinked. A brave angel lady? Saved this child? He turned to Saqib again, feeling his heartbeat pick up speed. What is she talking about? Saqib broke. The dam he had been holding inside shattered. Tears streamed down his face and he covered his mouth to muffle the sound. After a long moment, he managed to speak. "Sir," he whispered, voice shaking. "Your daughter, Aisha." He clutched his chest. "She saved my little girl's life." The wind froze. The drizzle paused. Even the birds seemed silent. "What?" Adnan breathed. Saqib looked up, guilt burning in his eyes. She saved her, but she lost her own life doing it. The words stabbed into Adnan's heart with unbearable force. "No," he whispered, "that's not true. The police told me it was an accident, a tragic accident. No one told me." "They didn't know," Saqib said. I ran away. I disappeared. I was scared, terrified. Your daughter died saving my child and his voice broke. "I didn't know how to face you." Adnan stood completely still, the world tilting beneath him. What happened?" he whispered. Saqib held his daughter close, steadying himself. 7 years ago, he said, I was working construction near your company. I used to bring little Amna with me sometimes because I had no one else. That day, she wandered into the road. A truck was coming fast. I ran, but I knew I wouldn't make it. He closed his eyes, the memory clearly torturing him. She would have died, sir, but your daughter, your Aisha, saw her. She ran faster than anyone I've ever seen. She pushed my child out of the way, and the truck hit her instead. Adnan staggered as if someone punched him. He felt the air leave his lungs. He felt the world collapse around him. He felt the truth, raw, sharp, painful, dig into his soul. Aisha hadn't died by accident. She had died saving a life, saving this little girl, saving Amna. He looked at the child again, realizing she was breathing today because his daughter wasn't. And for the first time in 7 years, Adnan felt something stronger than grief. A reason, a purpose, a connection, a truth he was never told. A truth that was waiting for him right here at his daughter's grave.
Adnan felt as if the ground beneath him had opened. His ears rang, his heartbeat hammered in his chest, and the cold morning suddenly felt colder. He stared at Saqib, barely able to process the words. "My daughter died, saving yours?" Saqib nodded, trembling. "Yes, sir, she did." Adnan steadied himself against the headstone, afraid his knees might give out. For 7 years, he had lived inside a fog of grief, thinking Aisha's death was a meaningless accident, a cruel twist of fate that snatched her away with no explanation. But now, a reason had appeared. A painful, beautiful, heartbreaking reason. He drew in a sharp breath. "Tell me everything," he said quietly. Saqib held Amna's hand as though grounding himself. "It was a normal day. I was working at the construction site. My wife had died the year before, so I had no one to watch Amna. She was 3. She followed me everywhere." He paused, eyes clouded with regret. "I always tried to keep her safe, but that day I turned my back for a few seconds. Only a few seconds, and when I looked again, she was toddling toward the road, chasing a stray balloon." Adnan closed his eyes. He could see it clearly. The small child, the busy road, the speeding truck. "I screamed her name. I ran, but the truck was too close. I knew she wouldn't make it." His voice cracked. "I thought I was about to watch my child die." He wiped his face with shaking hands. "And then, your daughter appeared." Adnan opened his eyes slowly. "She was walking out of your company building," Saqib explained. "She saw the truck. She saw my child. She didn't hesitate, not even for a moment." His voice filled with awe and agony mixed together. "She ran with everything she had. She didn't stop. She didn't think about herself. She only thought, 'This child must live.'" A long silence followed. Adnan felt his chest tighten. Aisha had always been like that, brave, impulsive, caring to a fault. She would have thrown herself into danger without a second thought. He swallowed painfully. What happened next? Saqib lowered his head. "She reached Amna just in time. She pushed her away from the truck. My daughter fell onto the sidewalk, safe." He exhaled shakily. "But your daughter, she didn't make it. The truck hit her full force." Amna clung to her father's leg as he continued. "I ran to her. I didn't know who she was yet. I just saw a young woman lying on the pavement, bleeding, not moving." He broke down again. "She was still alive when I reached her. Barely." Adnan felt his heart tearing open. "What did she say?" he whispered. Saqib met his eyes, tears sliding down his face. "She said, 'The child is safe. That's all that matters.'" A tiny sob escaped Adnan's throat. He covered his mouth, trying to steady himself. Saqib continued in a trembling voice. "She didn't care about herself. She kept asking if Amna was okay. And when she saw my daughter crying but unharmed, she smiled." Adnan felt his legs weaken. "That was her last smile," Saqib whispered. The words hit like a blow. Adnan's precious girl, her last breath spent comforting a child she didn't even know. "So, after she passed out, I panicked," Saqib said. "I called for help. The ambulance came. But I was terrified of what would happen if people found out that my child was the reason the billionaire's daughter died." Adnan lifted his head sharply. "I would never have hurt you," he said quietly. "But I didn't know that," Saqib replied softly. "I was a poor laborer. You were the great Adnan Mirza. I thought your anger would destroy everything I had left." He looked down in shame. "So I disappeared. I quit my job, I moved, I hid." Adnan stared at him stunned. "All these years, you carried this alone?" Saqib nodded. "But I never forgot her. I couldn't. Every time I looked at my daughter, I saw your daughter's sacrifice. I owe every breath my child takes to Aisha." Amna tugged at Saqib's sleeve. "Baba, is the angel lady the one who saved me?" "Yes, beta, she is." The little girl looked at Aisha's gravestone and placed another paper flower she had brought in her small trembling hand. "Thank you. I'm alive because of you."
Adnan's eyes flooded. He hadn't cried this openly in years. He looked at Saqib. "Why did you come here today?" "Every year," Saqib said, "on this exact date, I come here. I clean her grave, I pray for her, and I ask Allah to give peace to her soul." Adnan felt something shift inside him, pain turning into something gentler. "You shouldn't have carried this guilt alone," he said quietly. Saqib shook his head. "It's my burden, sir. My daughter lived because yours didn't. That is something I will never forget." "Never." "You loved her," Adnan said softly. "I owed her my life," he corrected. "I still do." For the first time since Aisha's death, Adnan felt truth sweep through him like a healing wind. She had not died in vain. She had saved a child. She had saved a family. She had saved a future. He placed a trembling hand on Amna's head. "She has lived 7 years she would have never had," he whispered, "because of my daughter." Amna smiled shyly. Saqib watched the billionaire silently, waiting for anger, blame, or resentment. But instead, Adnan stepped closer and did something completely unexpected. He pulled the janitor into a gentle embrace. Saqib froze in shock. "It wasn't your fault," Adnan whispered. "It was her choice, her kindness, her heart, and I am proud of her." Saqib broke into sobs. The two men, one billionaire, one janitor, stood crying together beside the grave of the girl who had unknowingly tied their lives forever. And in that moment, Adnan made a silent promise. He wasn't going to let his daughter's sacrifice end in grief. He was going to continue her legacy, starting right now. The drizzle eased into a quiet mist as the three of them, Adnan, Saqib, and little Amna, began walking away from Aisha's grave. The graveyard was silent, except for the distant rustling of trees, but something inside Adnan felt louder than ever. His daughter's last act, her final breath, her final smile, all of it had been for this little girl walking beside him. He glanced down at Amna. She held his hand as if she'd known him forever, swinging her arm gently with childlike innocence. Her tiny fingers were warm, full of life, full of promise. A promise his daughter had died protecting. Adnan took a deep breath. "Saqib," he said gently, "tell me honestly, how have you been living all these years?" Saqib hesitated before answering. "Barely, sir. After the accident, I left the city for a while. I worked odd jobs. Some weeks were good, some were terrible. But I always made sure Amna ate, went to school, and stayed safe." He smiled weakly at his daughter. "She's the reason I kept going." Adnan nodded slowly, watching the man struggle to hold dignity despite the hardships carved into his face. "You've done well," Adnan said quietly. "Raising a child alone is not easy." Saqib's eyes softened. "You would know that better than me, sir." The words hit deeper than Saqib realized. Adnan swallowed hard. "I lost everything when I lost her. My marriage fell apart. My business became nothing but noise. I walked through life like a ghost. Everyone saw the billionaire, but no one saw the father." He paused, feeling the familiar ache rise, but for the first time in years, it didn't feel suffocating. "I kept her memory alive," he whispered. "You honored her in ways I didn't even know were possible." Saqib looked down in embarrassment. "Sir, I only did what any grateful man would do." "No," Adnan said firmly. "You did more." They walked in thoughtful silence, the graveyard path stretching ahead like a long, gentle reminder of time passing. After a while, Adnan kneeled in front of Amna. She blinked at him curiously. "Amna," he said softly, "do you like school?" "Yes," she said proudly. "I want to be a doctor when I grow up, so I can help sick people." The innocence in her eyes was like sunlight breaking through clouds. Adnan felt something bloom in his chest, pride, sorrow, hope, all tangled together. "A doctor," he repeated. "Why a doctor?" She looked at Aisha's grave in the distance. "Because the angel lady helped me, so I want to help people too." Adnan felt tears prick his eyes. His daughter's kindness was still spreading. Even after death, she was inspiring goodness. He placed a gentle hand on Amna's cheek. "You will make a wonderful doctor," he whispered. She grinned wide enough to light up the entire morning. Then he stood and turned to Saqib, the decision already formed in his heart. "Saqib," he said quietly, "from today, your life is going to change." Saqib blinked in confusion. "Sir?" "I'm giving you a home, a proper place to live, somewhere safe for you and your daughter." Saqib staggered a step back. "Sir, that's too much." "It isn't," Adnan said firmly, "and it's only the beginning." Saqib's breath shook. "I'm also hiring you," Adnan continued, "not as a janitor, as a supervisor in one of my facilities. A good salary, benefits, stability." The man looked like he might collapse. "Sir, why? Why would you do this for me?" Adnan's voice softened to a whisper. "Because my daughter died saving yours. Because she believed every life was worth protecting. And because if she were standing beside me right now, she would ask me to do this." Saqib covered his face with both hands, overwhelmed. His shoulders shook as he fought to control his emotions. "And one more thing," Adnan said gently. Saqib looked up slowly, eyes red. "I will pay for Amna's education," Adnan said firmly, "as far as she wants to go. School, college, medical school, everything." Saqib's hands dropped. "Sir!" "It is not charity," Adnan said firmly. "It is fulfilling my daughter's dream. If she saved a life, then I want that life to flourish." Amna looked up at them, confused but happy. "Baba, what happened?" Saqib fell to his knees and hugged her tightly. "Beta, you will study, you will learn, you will become the doctor you want to be." She smiled, hugging him back. Adnan watched them, feeling something warm spread through him. For the first time in 7 years, he felt purpose. He felt meaning. He felt connected to his daughter again, not through grief, but through kindness. A breeze passed through the cemetery, brushing over the gravestones. The sky brightened slightly, as if morning itself was celebrating this new beginning. Adnan turned toward Aisha's grave one last time. He whispered, "I'll take care of them, Aisha. I promise. Your sacrifice will not end in sorrow. It will grow. It will heal. It will shine." The wind felt like a soft reply. Amna reached up and grabbed Adnan's hand again. "Uncle, can we come visit her with you again?" He smiled, a real smile, one he hadn't felt in so long that it surprised even him. "Not just visit," he said gently. "She's part of your family now." Amna beamed. Saqib wiped his eyes, standing tall again, not with shame, but with gratitude. The three of them walked toward the cemetery gates. A billionaire with a broken heart, a janitor who carried guilt like a shadow, a little girl whose life was a miracle. 3 lives forever tied together by an act of pure courage from a young woman who gave everything and left behind a legacy of love. As they reached the gate, Adnan looked back one last time. He didn't see a grave anymore. He saw a beginning, a new story, a future Aisha had gifted them all. And together, they stepped into it.